The Dead Sea has stunned Christians worldwide by seemingly fulfilling an ancient prophecy. But what exactly happened? And what could this mean for the future? Let's break it down in simple terms. Before we dive in, take a moment to subscribe so we can make God's message the biggest platform on earth. Now, let's get back to it. The Dead Sea is known for its massive sinkholes. These sinkholes form when fresh water seeps below the surface, mixing with the salt and silt layers that make up the white sections of the beach. When the salt dissolves, it leaves behind large gaping holes. Here's the incredible part. Some of these sinkholes are forming underwater, creating piles of driftwood that are bleached white, resembling old bones. Around the shore, these driftwood formations add an eerie yet fascinating beauty to the landscape. If there were such a thing as a ghost town among bodies of water, the Dead Sea would be at the top of the list. It's the lowest point on Earth, the hottest location in Israel, and no living creatures can survive in its waters. With a name like the Dead Sea, you might expect it to be dull or lifeless, but the wonder of this place never fades for those who visit. Here's what's happening beneath the surface. Fresh water from underground springs is dissolving the salt and pushing through the silt, causing the ground to collapse into sinkholes. While this may sound like a natural disaster, there's something oddly beautiful about it. These sinkholes often look like small oases surrounded by a barren salt wasteland. The minerals left behind create striking, colorful patterns in the sinkholes, giving this desolate place an otherworldly charm. What do you think this means? Could it be a sign of something greater? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. The shoreline of the Dead Sea is dotted with sinkholes, and these are becoming a big problem in the area. Sinkholes are appearing more and more often, making the ground unstable. This is why roads and beaches near the Dead Sea are being closed. It's just too dangerous for people to use these places safely. Construction in the area is also impossible. Insurance companies won't cover the risks, and no one wants to invest in building projects because the ground is too unstable due to the sinkholes. However, something fascinating is happening in these sinkholes. Life is emerging. Birds can be heard chirping, and some people believe this area could become a hotspot for bird migration. The sinkholes are surrounded by greenery, and there are even reports of fish living in them. Yes, real fish. This shows that salt levels in the area are dropping, allowing life to thrive in places that were once barren. The Dead Sea, a saltwater lake bordered by Israel and Palestine to the west and Jordan to the east, has been considered lifeless throughout history. It is almost 10 times saltier than the ocean, which was believed to make it impossible for plants or animals to survive. But in 2011, scientists found evidence of life beneath the Dead Sea. Later, reports revealed freshwater ponds around its shores, filled with fish and plants, proving that life is beginning to flourish in this once dead region. This discovery perfectly matches the prophecy in the book of Zechariah. On that day, living water will flow out from Jerusalem, half toward the Dead Sea and half toward the Mediterranean Sea. This will happen in both summer and winter. The Dead Sea lies to the east of Jerusalem, and Zechariah foretells that water will flow from Jerusalem to the eastern sea. Similarly, the book of Ezekiel describes fishermen working at the Dead Sea and its salty waters turning fresh. We are seeing signs of this prophecy coming true right before our eyes. Take a look at the fresh water appearing along the Dead Sea's shoreline. It's amazing to witness. It's spiritually uplifting to see prophecy unfolding. You can even spot colorful vegetation growing in the area, showing how the Dead Sea is coming back to life. If we're lucky, we might even see fish swimming in the sinkholes near the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is over 400 meters below sea level, and its thick salt layer has prevented plants from surviving. However, Scripture says this region was once a lush, well-watered land before it was destroyed by fire and brimstone in the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, as recorded in Genesis 13 verse 10. In 2011, scientists from Ben-Gurion University explored the bottom of the Dead Sea and found large craters covered in microbial mats, with fresh water gushing out of them. This discovery showed that the Dead Sea wasn't entirely dead. It was a phenomenon that defied natural expectations and had been overlooked by scientists and the media. One striking discovery came from Samantha Siegel, a Jewish American living in Jerusalem. During her nature walks along the Dead Sea shoreline, she came across fish in a pond. At first, she thought it was just fascinating and noted how the Dead Sea seemed to be flourishing. But months later, when she reread the prophecy, she realized the deeper significance. According to her, the connection is undeniable and happening right in front of us. In front of her, the scene was a clear fulfillment of prophecy. Seagull described how, every time she visited, a family of ducks greeted her along with a fish. She found the scene to be a powerful illustration of the restoration of life in the world. She compared it to the prophesied resurrection of the dead in the Dead Sea. Seagull pointed out something significant about the Dead Sea. It's the lowest point on Earth, and its salty waters make it perfect for floating. She explained that the buoyancy prevents anyone from sinking, even if they tried or didn't know how to swim. She used this as a metaphor, saying that no matter how low someone feels, God is always there to lift them up, just as the Dead Sea won't let a person sink. Have you ever wondered why tourists visit the Dead Sea to experience its buoyancy? The salt content is so high that people can float with the water level at their chest, standing still without touching the bottom. It's a strange sensation. Many people float on their backs and even read books. If you toss a stick onto the surface, it looks like it's resting on a mirror. During the Jewish revolt in AD 68, the historian Josephus recorded an amazing event. Vespasian went to the Dead Sea to test the claim that no one could drown there. He tied up people who couldn't swim and threw them into the water. Whether you're a swimmer or not, the story is a reminder to avoid getting water in your mouth or eyes. It's not pleasant and can make you throw up or cry. Breathing in water is, of course, extremely dangerous. With these precautions in mind, the Dead Sea offers visitors an unforgettable experience. Many tourists smear black mud over their bodies and wade into the salty water, hoping to capture unique photos. Throughout history, the Dead Sea has had several names. In the Bible, it's called the Eastern Sea, the Salt Sea, or simply the Sea. Over time, it's also been known as the Devil's Sea, the Stinking Sea, and other names reflecting its unique nature. Believe it or not, the area around the Dead Sea used to be lush and beautiful, similar to the Garden of Eden. However, as mentioned in Genesis 13 verse 10, Deuteronomy 29 verse 23, and Jeremiah 17 verse 6, God's judgment on Sodom and Gomorrah transformed the fertile land into a barren wasteland as a symbol of his punishment for sin. Today, the surface of the Dead Sea is often covered in fog caused by evaporation. This fog resembles the smoke from a furnace, as described in Genesis 19 verse 28, after Sodom's destruction. The Dead Sea stands as a modern reminder of God's judgment on sin. However, the Bible promises that one day, the Dead Sea will come back to life. During the Millennial Kingdom, when Jesus reigns, water will flow from Jerusalem's Temple Mount into the Dead Sea, restoring it. Ezekiel 47 verses 8 to 10 and Zechariah 14 verse 8 describe how fishermen will once again gather along its shores, spreading their nets to catch a variety of fish. This transformation shows God's power to bring life from death. The prophet Ezekiel, who lived in exile in Babylon around 597 BC, shared a vision in Ezekiel 47. He described a river flowing from the temple in Jerusalem to the Dead Sea. This river turns the salty water fresh, allowing fish and other creatures to thrive. Ezekiel wrote, "This water flows toward the east, down into the Jordan Valley, and enters the Dead Sea. When it reaches the sea, the salty water becomes fresh. Wherever the river flows, life thrives. Countless creatures live, and fish of all kinds fill the water. Fishermen will gather along the shores from En-Gedi to En-Eglaim, spreading their nets and catching many types of fish, similar to those found in the Mediterranean Sea." The final chapters of Ezekiel describe the Jewish people's return to their homeland and their renewed relationship with God. The resurrection of the Dead Sea symbolizes a future time when Israel's fortunes will be restored, and life will flourish again. What was once broken and abandoned is now being fully restored, and it's happening right now. Israel's economy is thriving, and the nation is becoming a major force on the global stage. It's like witnessing prophecy unfold before our eyes. Many people now believe that Jesus is the long-awaited Jewish Messiah. They believe he will fulfill prophecy by giving the Jewish people a new heart and cleansing them of their sins. Like the transformation of the Dead Sea, this ultimate restoration will happen when the Jewish people return from the nations where they were scattered for turning away from God. You can trust that every prophecy in Scripture will come true exactly as written. About 75% of Ezekiel's prophecies, or 81% of all Bible prophecies, have already been fulfilled, right on time. The final pages of the Bible, in the book of Revelation, describe a river of life flowing from God's throne, telling us what will happen in the days before Jesus returns. We are living in historic, prophetic times. The Bible's symbolism of life rising from death points to both the restoration of Israel and the return of the Messiah. What Ezekiel predicted 2,600 years ago is now unfolding. One of his famous prophecies, once thought to be symbolic, is becoming a reality. The Dead Sea is coming back to life. And when the Dead Sea is full of life again, what will we call it? If you've made it this far in the video, you might qualify for our membership, so keep listening.